Good night, manifestors. If you need money fast, but feel like the more you try to manifest, the more things get stuck, there's a biological reason for this that almost nobody tells you about. Because financial urgency doesn't just block manifestation. It literally shuts down the part of the brain that sees opportunities around you. And you're going to understand exactly how this works. In this video, you're going to discover how to disarm this block in just a few days, without forcing affirmations, without desperation, without pretending everything's okay when it's not. I remember staring at my account in the red, repeating I am abundant 50 times a day, and the only thing that came was more anxiety. Until I realized the problem wasn't the technique, it was the state of panic behind it. There's a filter in the brain that literally erases opportunities when you're in survival mode. And few people talk about this because it sounds like science fiction. But when you understand how this filter works, you see why so many people try to manifest with urgency and only make the situation worse. Before I show you exactly how this works, let me ask you something quick. Subscribe to the channel because I drop videos 3 times a week, unlocking what really blocks money and manifestation. And hit the like button because the more people understand this, the fewer people stay stuck in this cycle of trying to staying broke. Nobody explains this to you because there's more money in keeping you lost. Now come with me and I'll show you what really blocks manifestation when your account's in the red. Have you ever tried to manifest money when your account was in the red? When the bill's due in 3 days, the credit card statement's coming, and you sit down to do the technique, visualize, repeat affirmations, but the only thing that comes is more anxiety. Because there's something almost nobody explains to you. When you're in financial urgency, your brain enters an automatic defense mode. It's literally like your body thinks you're running from a predator, except instead of a lion. It's the bank notification. Instead of running, you freeze. And that part of the brain responsible for planning, intuition, seeing opportunities, it partially shuts down. That's why you feel that pit in your stomach when you open the banking app. That's why you can't meditate thinking about the bills. It's that mental fog that appears whenever you try to plan anything. The problem is that urgency creates an invisible wall between you and the solutions. It's like driving in a storm with a broken windshield wiper. The road is there. The opportunities are around you, but you simply can't see them. And here's the part almost nobody realizes. Desperation for money isn't just a bad feeling. It's a biological command that literally changes what you can see in reality. So when you're looking at the negative balance, repeating I am abundant, the body isn't hearing the affirmation. It's hearing there's a lion here and I need to survive. And survival blocks abundance, always. This isn't your fault. It's not lack of worthiness. It's not because you don't believe enough. It's just biology reacting to a threat trigger. And the worst part is that most people, when they realize they're stuck, do exactly the thing that strengthens this block the most, without knowing it. Because when we realize we're stuck, the first reaction is, I need to try harder. I need to do more techniques, repeat more affirmations, visualize with more intensity. If it's not working, it's because I'm not trying hard enough. And then you start repeating I am rich 100 times a day. You do 3 visualization sessions. You listen to subliminals while you sleep. 2, try to force the feeling of abundance while looking at the account in the red. Seems logical, right? The more urgent, the more effort. Except with manifestation, this is exactly the opposite of what works. Because there's a law that most people ignore. When imagination and willpower enter into conflict, imagination always wins. Always. So when you're repeating I have money with your voice, but your whole body is screaming lie, 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 guess which one the subconscious hears? It's like trying to force yourself to sleep. The more you try to sleep, the more awake you stay. The more you try to force the manifestation of money with desperation, the more internal resistance you create. And look, it's not that the techniques don't work. They work. I use them. I teach them. The problem isn't the technique. It's the emotional state of panic behind it. Every time you repeat I am abundant while feeling that tightness in your chest, the brain doesn't hear abundance. It hears an alarm saying, "This is a lie, this is urgent, something is very wrong." And the problem is that the brain doesn't differentiate between real emergency and imaginary emergency. When you treat money like an ambulance arriving, your whole body enters defense mode. And defense never attracts, it only repels. So if forcing doesn't work, what does? The answer is in something your subconscious accepts without resistance, and that changes everything. Because what changes everything is understanding that the subconscious isn't a genie in a lamp. It doesn't grant wishes. It's a survival machine. And its priority isn't to give you what you want. It's to keep you alive, safe, and within what it already knows. So when you ask for money with desperation, the subconscious doesn't hear, "I want abundance." It hears, "This is dangerous, this is new, this isn't familiar," and it blocks. Think about the difference between receiving a package you're expecting and hearing the doorbell ring when you're not expecting anyone. With the package, you see the tracking, you know it's coming. You open the door relaxed. With the unexpected doorbell, your body freezes, your heart races, you look through the peephole before opening. Same door, same person on the other side maybe, but the body's energy is completely different. One is relief, the other is alert. That's exactly what happens with money. If your body treats money like an unexpected doorbell, it's never going to relax. But if it treats money like an expected package, the resistance disappears. The brain accepts as real what's repeated without exaggerated emotion, routine, familiarity, neutrality. That's why you don't celebrate every time you take a shower or turn on the light. It became so common that the body doesn't even register it as an event anymore. And here's the secret that changes the whole game. Your body isn't waiting for you to feel euphoria. It's waiting for you to feel nothing, neutrality. Like money is as normal as breathing. When you can treat money as something common, without urgency, without desperation, without it being an exceptional event, the subconscious stops blocking. Because now money isn't a threat anymore. It's just another thing in life. But there's a problem. How do you do this in practice when the account's in the red and your body's in panic? How do you convince the brain that everything's okay when it clearly isn't? That's where a brain filter comes in that literally decides what you see or ignore in reality. And this is exactly where most people get stuck, because understanding that the subconscious works through familiarity is one thing, but reprogramming this mechanism when you're in debt, with a short deadline, under pressure, that's something completely different. That's why I created a complete material on financial unblocking and practical manifestation. It's not abstract theory. It's step by step on how you reset the body, change the internal frequency, and unlock the flow of money without having to pretend everything's fine. I use this to this day. Whenever I realize I've entered urgency mode, I go back to the process, because rapid manifestation isn't about intensity, it's about internal alignment. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. Take a look, see if it makes sense for you. Now back to the brain filter I was talking about. This filter is called the reticular activating system, and it works like a doorman for the brain. It decides what enters your consciousness and what's completely ignored. Without it, we'd go crazy, because the brain receives millions of stimuli per second. Sounds, images, sensations, smells. If we processed everything, it wouldn't work. So the RAS filters. It only lets through what it considers important. The problem is that who defines what's important isn't you consciously. It's your internal state, your emotional frequency, what the body considers relevant in that moment. Have you ever bought a car and started seeing the same model everywhere, or learned a new word, and suddenly everyone's using that word? They were always there, but the RAS didn't consider them relevant until you signal that now they're important. It's exactly what happens with money. When you're in panic, the RAS filters out financial opportunities because the body's in flight mode. It doesn't process creative solutions. It only processes danger. So that client who could come back, ignored, that idea that could become extra income. doesn't even cross consciousness. That contact who could open a door, filtered out. It's not that these things don't exist, they're there, but your radar is programmed not to see them. It's like using night vision goggles. You don't create new light. You just start to see the light that already existed but was invisible to your normal eyes. And here's the craziest part of all this. You don't need to create wealth from scratch. You just need to reprogram the radar to stop filtering it out. It's like taking the blindfold off your eyes. When you reset the internal state, when you leave survival mode and enter neutrality, the RAS changes instantly. It starts highlighting clients, ideas, contacts, synchronicities that were being ignored. That's why it works in a few days, because you're not reprogramming deep childhood beliefs. You're changing the attention filter. And that's instantaneous. As soon as the state changes, the radar changes with it. Now let me be clear. The money isn't going to sprout in the drawer. It comes through natural bridges. A message. An impulse. An idea. An opportunity you finally notice. But how do you do this in practice? How do you reset the body and the RAS when urgency is suffocating you? It's simpler than you imagine. The technique is based on anticipated relief, not positive affirmation. Because when the account's in the red, repeating "I am rich" sounds way too false. The body rejects it immediately. You feel the lie in your chest. So instead of declaring that you have it, you plant the possibility without forcing. You use neutral commands that the subconscious can accept without resistance. For example, what if money came in a way I never imagined? It's not an affirmation. It's a question. The brain doesn't reject a question. It processes it as a real possibility. Or I allow financial solutions to appear naturally. There's no effort. There's no urgency. Just permission. The body relaxes with that. The focus isn't on the money. It's on the relief. Because the body processes relief much better than abundance when it's in panic. You're not trying to convince the brain that you're rich. You're giving permission for the tension to leave. Let me give you a practical example. You're in the middle of the workday. Suddenly that anxiety hits about the bill that's due tomorrow. Your chest tightens. Your mind races. You freeze. In that moment, you get up, go to the bathroom, wash your face with cold water. Take 3 deep breaths and give the command, "I allow this to resolve naturally." Drop your shoulders physically. Go back to work. Think of a router reset. When the internet freezes, you don't fix it cable by cable. You turn it off, wait, turn it back on. The reset works. Here it's the same thing. You interrupt the panic pattern. You reset the nervous system. And here's the detail that makes all the difference. You don't need to believe it's going to work. You just need to interrupt the panic pattern long enough for the body to reset. The rest happens on its own. You don't need a long ritual. You don't need a specific time. You need short and frequent intervention. Whenever the thought of scarcity appears, you apply the reset. 5 times a day if necessary, 10 times. However many times the panic appears. Because every time you do this, you're signaling to the RAS, relax, everything's fine. I don't need to run from anything. And the radar starts to change. But what happens after you start doing this? What can you expect in the first few days? I'll tell you exactly. The first sign isn't money falling from the sky. It's internal silence. In the first 48 hours, the mental noise about how am I going to pay this starts to decrease. The anxiety gets lower. You can breathe without that weight on your chest. That's already evidence that the reset is working, because when the body leaves survival mode, the RAS starts to change the radar. After that, the synchronicities begin. A message from an old client you didn't even remember anymore. An idea that appears out of nowhere while you're taking a shower. A memory of something you'd forgotten that could turn into money. And along with the synchronicities come the impulses. Sudden desire to call someone. Impulse to adjust a service. Feeling that you need to check that opportunity you'd ignored. Pay attention to those impulses, because now the radar is open to capture what it was filtering out before. So if you felt the urge to do something, it's because the RAS highlighted a real possibility. It's not just intuition in a vacuum. I've seen people apply this, go 2 days without seeing anything, think it's not working, and on the third day receive a message from a client who'd been missing for months. They closed the deal. It wasn't magic. It was just the RAS finally releasing attention to notice the opportunity. But look, sometimes the anxiety comes back. Sometimes the third day is still difficult. That's normal. The process isn't linear. The important thing is that you keep applying the reset whenever the panic appears. And here's the most important point. If you apply this, and in the first week you don't see a miracle, but you notice that the anxiety decreased, and you had an idea you hadn't had before, that's already the process working. The money is a consequence, not the first sign. Don't sit there waiting. Money comes through action. The difference is that now the action is guided by clarity, not by panic. So how do you start? I'm going to give you a simple plan to apply this over the next 3 days. The challenge is simple. 3 days. That's it. For 3 days, every time the thought of scarcity appears, every time you feel that tightness in your chest thinking about money, you stop. Breathe deeply. Give the relief command. Drop your shoulders and go back to what you were doing. You don't need to believe it's going to work. You just need to test it. Treat it like a scientific experiment. You're the observer. Test and note what changes. Pay attention if the anxiety decreases, if impulses emerge that you didn't have before, if ideas or messages appear that you would have ignored before. It could be 5 times a day. It could be 10. However many times the panic appears, you apply the reset. No complicated ritual, no specific time, no preparation, just pattern interruption. 3 days. If in 3 days you don't notice any change in your anxiety, in mental clarity, or in the opportunities that start to appear, then you decide whether to continue or not. But if you notice that something changed, even if it's just the mental noise getting lower, you'll understand that the RAS started to reset, and that the opportunities that are going to save your week are already there. You just needed to stop filtering them out. The change starts when you leave survival mode and the brain can finally see what was invisible. It's just biology responding to the internal state. Start now, 3 days, and you'll see. If you apply at least the RAS reset every time the panic appears, you'll already be unlocking the filter that was preventing you from seeing the opportunities around you. This video gave you the mechanism. Now you know what was blocking. But this video only covered one of the filters, the urgency one. The complete material I created covers all the other invisible blocks that the RAS still has programmed for scarcity. Beliefs about worthiness, patterns of self-sabotage, identity frequencies that keep you stuck. It's the complete map. It's not theory. It's practical application for every type of financial blockage that exists. I use this to this day because understanding one filter doesn't turn off all the others. You need the complete process if you really want to unlock everything. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. Now tell me in the comments, what was the moment in the video that made the most sense to you? I read them all and I often get ideas for next videos from there. And if you had that moment that's exactly at watching this video, there's probably someone in your life who needed to hear this too. Share it with whoever's going through the same thing. Subscribe to the channel because every week I bring content about financial unblocking, practical manifestation, and how to get out of the scarcity cycle. You started this video thinking the problem was the technique. Now, you know the problem was the internal state creating an invisible filter. That's the kind of shift that changes everything. See you in the next one.